Hi guys, Drew here. A little while ago, I looked back at the Pagan Challenge 2017 questions, and while I found most of them interesting, there was certainly many that I didn't really have responses for, but several of them kind of struck me and stuck with me. So I'm going to do a few videos where I talk about the ones that really struck a chord with me. And today is number 5. Do you have any magical talents, psychic techniques, which you consider your speciality? I did not. My immediate response to this was, ugh. Because if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably realize that I am shaman. And as such, I help animals, maybe plants too, I don't know, but people definitely die. And while intellectually and spiritually, I know that this is a beautiful thing, it's a wonderful gift to give to someone, personally, emotionally, it's extremely unfortunate, heartbreaking, painful. Compound that with the fact that I'm empath. I'm not here to debate what empath is. I will talk about what I am, and that's what I name empath. I know that there are people who don't believe in that ability at all, that think it's, I don't know what they think it is, but they don't think it's real. And there may be many shades of empath, I guess, many different levels that you would fall into, but I'm just going to tell you what I am. I am capable of feeling others' emotions. And maybe it goes deeper than that, I don't know. I am capable of feeling other people. When I was a teenager, it was really uncomfortable. I couldn't be in large crowds without becoming weird, really. I would become agitated, and I really didn't understand it. It wasn't until much later that I realized I would just pick up everybody else's junk and it would affect me. When I was with one of my exes, I would be really very angry for no reason, and I couldn't figure out why. And eventually I realized, even while I was still with him, that I was picking up his anger because he was an angry person. There's been many times where I've been in situations and someone is becoming very uncomfortable or upset, and I have been able to kind of diffuse the situation and kind of say, okay, we need to stop doing what we're doing because I understand what's happening. I can feel it. It goes a step further than that. I have actually felt other people's physical pain that has nothing to do with me. Fortunately, when this happens, it's only for a second. It only lasts for a second. Fortunately, it's not as pervasive as the emotional connection, I guess. Because feeling pain is not fun. And while it helps me empathize and understand the other person, I don't want to carry someone else's pain. And I feel that sometimes spirits can do this as well. I am not a medium. So it doesn't really apply to me, but I have seen mediums who are empaths as well, because they will say, oh, my head hurts really bad. They're giving me such a pain in my head. Some sort of trauma caused their passing. That to me falls under the empath category as well. So you could see how these two things combined could be a little uncomfortable. When I realized I was shaman, I thought, oh great, I get to be the healer. I get to heal people. And I've taken Reiki and looked at many sort of healing modalities, and I was very excited to be the healer. But Shamans don't work that way. I mean, shamans are both. Shamans heal and shamans hurt, or at least they have that capacity. If a shaman is anything, it is balanced. Now, that's not to say that because I am shaman, I am balanced. I am human, so, I'm not always balanced. There are certainly times when I'm not. But it does mean that if I can do one thing, I can do the opposite. Healing when working with plants comes very naturally to me. It's not something that I have to try to do. I like to go to stores and pick their plants that are on special because they're sickly and they've given up on them, and take them home and nurse them, and just give them loving energy and take care of them and believe in them and talk to them and nurture them spiritually as much as physically, and bring them back to health and have them in my home or my yard forevermore. This is not as easy with animals and humans, particularly humans, because humans have free will. Humans can say they want to be healed, but actually have a deep psychosis that causes them to want to be sick for whatever reason. And so healing humans is a more difficult thing. Maybe not more difficult as much as it's more of a, plants don't have psychological, emotional issues the way that human beings do. So they take the healing. They want to be whole and beautiful. With humans, it's much more complicated. I realized that I was a harbinger of death not long after fully embracing my path. Many animals came to me in a very short span of time to die. These stray kittens came up and I took care of them till they died, literally holding one while it died. A bird, shortly after, came flying into the sliding glass door, and I took care of it until it died. And I mean, there were several instances of animals coming to me, being brought to me, what have you, being put in my path, that I helped them die. And it took an emotional toll on me because I wanted to heal them. I wanted to make them better, and it didn't happen. And it was very painful, but I finally realized I did something for them. I helped them pass. I was with them and helped them move into the next phase of existence. Not long after I came to this realization, maybe a year or two, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. And she died very quickly, within a matter of days, actually. It was a week in total. And I helped my mother pass. I literally held her as she died. There are stages of death. If you've ever been involved with anyone when they were dying, you'll know what those are. But in the last stage, I held her and spoke to her. I called in angels and guides and her loved ones that had crossed that I knew she would want to be there. And I sang. I sang a song about going home when this life is over. And reassured her that it was okay. And I sang her across. And that was personally, emotionally devastating. I have talked to other individuals on shamanic paths, and when we talk about this topic, it's a consensus. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful gift we give to these individuals. But for us, it's devastating. Here's where the empath part kicks in. My mother and I were pretty close. And so, I have no plan going forward to do this for other people. Of course, if spirit puts it in my path, it puts it in my path. But it's not something I'm going to actively search out because it's painful. it wouldn't be as painful to help someone else that I hadn't known my whole life and loved. It wasn't dear to me in some way past. It probably wouldn't be as difficult. But the empath part is the part I worry about. I would have to develop some procedures and steps to counteract, to protect against the absorption part. The morning after my mother passed, the empath absorption part of the story became crystal clear. The day my mother died, she had what is called petechial hemorrhaging, and essentially there's so much fluid that it just starts leaking from your skin. And so her whole body was swollen, and particularly her face. Her eyes were jaundiced and they were swollen. And when I say her eyes were swollen, I'm not talking about like somebody punched her in the eye and she had a swollen eye. I'm talking about the whites of her eyes around her irises were swollen like balloons around her irises. It was freaky and weird. And the next morning I awoke and stood up, and when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was horrified. My husband can verify. It was only half of me. And honestly, I don't remember if it was the left or the right half. I really don't. I think it might have been the right. But the whole side of my face was swollen. The other side was normal. My eye was jaundiced, and my whites of my eyes were swollen. I was horrified. I had taken so much of my mother into me. Again, if you've watched videos of mine in the past, you may know this is how I discovered that when we pass, we don't take all that shadow shit with us. A lot of that stays behind. Very little leaves. It's earth crap. It makes sense logically that it would stay in the earth plane, and it does. And I had absorbed some of it into me. Fortunately, by about halfway through that day, I was back to normal. But yeah, being a shamanic empath is a trip. And so, you know, for me and anyone I know on the path that I've talked about this kind of thing with, it's a blessing and a curse. It is both. We understand it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's necessary, but on a personal level, it is hard. So, yeah, that's what's been running around in my brain since I read that question. It's something that I'm coming to terms with. Hopefully it won't take me the rest of my life to do so, but who knows. Some of the other prompts are still running around in my head too, so I'm sure I'll do some more videos on those, but I just wanted to share that. Maybe there are others out there who have gifts that kind of feel like curses sometimes, or maybe there are people that have no understanding of this kind of thing at all because their gifts are just things that feel wonderful to them and don't have any sort of discomfort or disharmony with their being or their life. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to share. So thanks for listening, and until next time, much love and gratitude.